Merry Christmas, everybody. This is Adrienne Fikes, and I wanted to do something interesting for Christmas and give you an interesting gift. So I thought what I would do is record this quick message about the family history that I've been doing. So if you are seeing this video, it is because you are a member of the Perry extended family. I have done research on all 16 of my great-great-grandparents. And so today what I want to do is just show you what I have found about the branch of the Perry family. I'm going to give you a little bit of information. The more interesting this is to you, there is a longer version where I actually go in detail through these documents and show you how I did the research. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I hope you enjoy this. So what I'm going to do very quickly is share my screen with you and take you through some family history. So the Perry family comes from Hertford, North Carolina. And as you can see, Hertford is the county seat of a county called Perquimans. And we come from Hertford. The Perry family comes from Hertford. So if you can see, this is the little downtown area of Hertford. And over here is Saunders Grove Baptist Church. This is the family church where our family comes out of. And you can see the river running through here is the Perquimans River. And other family members can tell you somewhere along this road is land that the Perry family, some of this road land somewhere along this road was, and there still is a piece of land that belongs to our family. So I'm going to give you a quick breakdown of a man you may have heard of. His name was Jacob Perry, and his wife was Margaret Felton. Now, my mother is Susie Perry Fikes. So when you think about your relation to Susie Perry Fikes, Jacob Perry was Susie Perry Fikes's great grandfather, and Margaret Felton was her great grandmother. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about them. Let's see. So Jacob and Margaret had Albert. They had many children, and I'm still digging through the brothers and their siblings, but their son Albert Henry Perry was Susie's great grandfather. No, excuse me. Jacob Perry was her great grandfather. Great grandfather. Albert Henry Perry was her great grandfather. So Albert Henry Perry went by Henry, and he married Emma Reed Perry. Also, they were both from Perquimans County. They had a son, Clarence B. Perry, who is Susie Perry's great grandfather. Clarence married Mary Ennisy Blanchard Perry, and they had two children, Sarah Isabella Perry and Clarence Edward Ulysses Perry. Clarence Edward Ulysses Perry was Sarah Elizabeth Howell Perry's husband, and they had a bunch of children. You may recognize Susie Perry Fikes was their oldest child. So this is the history. Susie Perry Fikes, her parents were Clarence Edward Ulysses Perry. Mother was Sarah Elizabeth Howell Perry. Her grandfather was Clarence. It is either B, V, or U, depending on the records you're finding. Clarence Perry, who married Mary Ennisy Blanchard Perry. Clarence's father was Albert Henry Perry, Clarence Perry was born in 1890, and Mary Ennisy Perry was born in 1896. Clarence's father, Albert Henry Perry, who went by Henry, was born in 1868. And Emma Reed Perry, his wife, was born in 18 1870. Albert Henry Perry's father was Jacob Perry, and Albert Henry's wife was Albert Henry Perry's mother was Margaret Felton. The other cool thing I found was Albert Henry Perry married Emma C. Reed Perry, and I have also found some information about her parents and her all four of her great grandparents, because they were all from Perquimans County in Hertford, and we are very fortunate that the record keeping in Perquimans County is impeccable. So I encourage you to also look for more information about this family tree. I'm using familysearch.org. It's like Ancestry, but without the fees. So I'm going to run through some of the quick documents that I found. So I found the record of marriages, and if you watch the longer video, I go into detail explaining this. The Jacob Perry, this was in August 14th of 1866. Jacob Perry, who again was Susie Perry Fikes' great grandfather, went down to the courthouse in 1866, August 14th, as a freedman, to declare that, it says, came before me something in the clerk of the circuit court of and something session for the county of Perquimans, and acknowledging, so Jacob came to acknowledge Margaret Fulton as his wife, and that they have been living together for 2 years. So Jacob Perry and Margaret Felton, our ancestors, went down to the courthouse just after emancipation, when the marriage between Black people became legal, to declare their union, make it lawful, and declare that they had been living together for the past 2 years. So I thought that was really cool. And I'll go into more detail, but there is the marriage register, and you can see Jacob and Margaret Felton are listed in the county record. I also found census records where Jacob and Margaret continued to live together. Here they are in the 1900 census for North Carolina and Perquimans County, the Hertford Township, Hertford Town Ward 1. Jacob and Margaret are 36 years old. They've been married for 36 years. Jacob was 60 and Margaret was 58. And he owned his own farm. So there's a lot of information to go through. I won't go through all of it. Here is the marriage record between Albert Henry Perry, so Jacob and Margaret's son. Albert, if you remember Albert, who went by Henry, Albert Henry Perry married Emma C. Reed. And here is a very cool thing where this is their marriage license. And you can see Albert, Jacob, Margaret, Emma Reed of Perquimans County. Albert Henry Perry was 22 years old when they got married in 1890, October 27th. He married Emma Reed of Perquimans County. She was 20 years old. She was the daughter of Gwanzi Reed and Abby Reed, and they were both living in Perquimans County. So those are the great grandparents of Susie Perry Fikes, who is my mother. So I'll keep going. So I've also got census records from 1910 for Albert and Emma Perry. What's interesting is on those previous census records, you've got Jacob and Margaret, but you've also got Albert and Emma living here across the street down the road. They were very close to each other. And you can see Clarence Perry, Albert, Henry and Emma's son, Clarence, was 9 years old in 1900. So this is another census record where you can see, let's see, who was this? Albert Perry and Emma Perry and their children who were living with them by the time of, see Henry and Emma, but you also see Jacob and Margaret. At this point, Jacob is getting up there in age, 65. He's the head of the household. He's 65, and she's listed as 69. So they've been married for 45 years. So I thought that was pretty cool. There's the 1920 census with Albert and Emma. At this point, Clarence, these are the siblings of Clarence. And I go through all of this in more detail, but this is Clarence Perry. And he is the son of Albert Henry Perry and Emma C. Perry Reed. His grandfather was Jacob Perry, and his mother was his grandmother was Margaret Felton Perry. So Clarence B. Perry, I found some very interesting information about him that I go over in the longer video. But he ultimately married Mary Ennisy Blanchard Perry. And they had 2 children. So here is the marriage record of Clarence Perry. Again, Albert went by Henry, and Emma Perry were his parents. And Ennisy was his second wife. That's what I found out. You'll have to watch the older video. But I also found Clarence's World War I draft registration card. And you can see his signature here where he was asking for an exemption to be home to take care of his father. Let's see. And then this is the marriage registry for Clarence Mary. That was in the World War. Oh, what did I just do? The registration card was June 5th, 1917. By 1919, he was getting married to Ennisy Blanchard Perry, and it was actually Ennezie Perry. And here are some, Charlie Hoffer and Lula Blanchard were their witnesses. So this is the marriage record of Clarence B. Perry and Ennisy Blanchard Perry. And you can see Clarence, Henry, and Emma Ennisy Perry of Perquimans. She was 24, he was 28. Her parents were Joseph Blanchard and Jane Blanchard, and I'll go through that extension in another video. But I also wanted to point out that the Clarence Perry and Ennisy Blanchard were married on the 11th of June, 1919, at Saunders Grove Baptist Church, which is the church that our family comes out of. And it is the cemetery where many of our relatives are buried. I've also got the 1920 census of Clarence and Ennisy Perry. And you can see on that census, where are they? Gotta look for the Perry. Clarence Edward. Clarence, and it's like V or B, Ennisy. They'd been married, they were 28 and 24. And you can see they were newlyweds because this was 1920, a year after they got married. And the interesting thing about it is he's listed as an engineer at the Cotton Oil something or other, and I can't make out what that word is. But he was working as an engineer, and she was not working outside the home. So here is the death certificate of Albert Henry Perry. He died in August 5th of 1934. Emma, his wife, is listed as the informant, and here's the address. It looks like Route 742, Box 38. And he is buried in the Perry Cemetery, which is a cemetery that sits on the land that the Perry family used to own. And so there are some graves that are not at the church, but they are actually on family land. And Albert Henry Perry is one of the Perrys buried back there back in 1934. So he died at the age 66. And you can see his parents are listed on his death certificate. And then there's his son, Clarence Edward, his grandson, Clarence Edward Ulysses Perry, who is my grandfather, marriage to Sarah Elizabeth Howell Perry, as we know as Sarah Perry. Clarence was 20 and Sarah was 17 when they got married. They're listed as colored instead of black. That's what they used to call us. And they were both single. His occupation was stevedore. They lived in Hertford. He lived in Hertford. He was born in Hertford. His father was Clarence. His mother was Anna Z. Sarah Perry was born in Norfolk. Her father was William Howell, and her mother was Susie Johnson, and we know that name to be Susie Amy Johnson Howell. So I could go on and on. There's a lot of information. Here's a picture of Clarence Edward Ulysses Perry. And as you can see, he looks very much like his father, Clarence V. Perry. And so this is a picture of Clarence Perry at the marriage of his oldest daughter, Susie Perry Fikes, who is my mother. And this is Sarah Elizabeth Howell Perry, his wife, my grandmother. And this is my father's mother, Gladys Jones. So this was the wedding of my of my parents. So that was the information I just want to show you. This Hertford is a little place. And if you scroll back out, again, this is a little downtown area. This is Saunders Grove. And as you continue to scroll out, you can see, I thought it would be interesting to show the satellite view. But this is Elizabeth City, North Carolina. And if you keep scrolling, we can see, let's see. Oh, I scrolled too far. That's really far out. Okay. You can see Hertford, Elizabeth City, Virginia Beach, Norfolk, the Franklin area, which is not too far from Holland, where Sarah Elizabeth Howell Perry is from. There's the Richmond, Petersburg area, and then you can see the distance between cities like Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill. So I hope this was interesting to you. There is a longer video available if you want to know more about how I created this family tree, and look at things like you can bounce around and see more about MSC Reed Perry and her family. I have built this in familysearch.org. And as you can see, Emma Reed Perry married Albert Henry Perry, and that's her lineage. But you can see her parents were Gwanzi Reed and Abnezer Abbey Reed. Abby's parents were Abnezer Fulton. Her mother was Judy Felton. So we don't know if that was Felton or Fulton, or a Fulton married a Felton. Her husband, Gwanzi Reed, was the son of Porphyry Freebler Reed and Jenny Reed. And so I actually have their Gwanzi and Abby's wedding certificate here in familysearch.org, where it lists their parents. And all I have is their names right now. But I thought this was very interesting because Porphyry Freebler Reed, Jenny Reed, Abnezer Fulton, and Judy Reed are Susie Perry Fikes' great, 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 four great grandparents. So there you go. Happy holidays. I hope this was interesting for you. Again, I will send you a link if you want to watch the longer video where I go into all of this, and you want to figure out how you are connected to Porphyry Freebler Reed, or Albert Henry Perry, or Jacob Perry, or Margaret Perry, or any of the other people that I have mentioned. You can go on and watch the longer video and reach out to me and ask any questions. I encourage you to come join familysearch.org and do research on your own family, connect with the tree that I've started, and have a Merry Christmas. Thank you. All right.